was white.
Yeah, Clarence King, not to be confused with Sean King, who, by the way, when we get to the story, I believe that Sean Jeffrey King, stole Clarence King's story, and that's why he named himself Sean King. Clarence King, he named him after Sean King. Sean King named himself after Clarence King because King is not his family last name.
Why not? I mean, his real dad was, well, I don't know if it's his real dad, probably. The dad on his birth certificate is a white man named Jeffrey King.
Allegedly.
No. That's what's on his birth certificate.
Who knows? Because he fucking also said that he was a victim of a hate crime, and there's no record of that.
Yeah, there's no record of the hate crime. Absolutely zero. The police report, there is a police report of an incident, but that police report lists him as white and says it was a fight between two students.
Yeah, actually, Sean King should at some point be brought up on federal charges for inciting race stuff, and he actually is like a real like devilish criminal. Sean King, because Rachel Dolezal and Clarence King, it was kind of, they didn't really mean to hurt anybody. They were just doing it. We'll get into the story of Clarence King. They were just doing it for love, but Sean King is actually exploiting people and causing harm. So I want to see a world where Sean King gets brought up on charges.
It's interesting too because Sean King has that story of a hate crime where he said, he missed a year of school. He had multiple back surgeries. There's no record of any of that in his school.
So it's lying.
Or the hospital. And interestingly enough, Rachel Dolezal, well, he says he had that hate crime happen to him, and that's when he chose blackness after that. Because he was like, all right, that made me black or whatever, which is an interesting story. Rachel Dolezal also made up she was sending letters to herself,
right,
like Jussie Smollett did.
Yeah,
Jussie Smollett was sending those hate crime letters to himself.
Yeah.
Rachel Dolezal did the same thing in a P.O. box, which she only had the key of, but the letters would go into there or whatever. She was sending hate crime letters to herself.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And she like burned a cross on her own lawn or whatever. So, but back
because do you ever think about like a lot of this is just like entitlement, meaning like people feel entitled for like a lot of reasons. It's like you have to, because we live in such a world where there's so opposite ends of the spectrum. Either you need to be a fucking superstar and feel entitled that way, or you need to be a victim and feel entitled that way. So I feel like if you can't live in the middle anymore and just be an average person. It's like average in especially American society is just not good. So these people that feel insanely average, like a Sean King, like a Rachel Dolezal, like a Jessica Krug, who we'll talk about all three of them, and maybe even like in a way Clarence King, although we'll get into the Clarence King story, he did it for love. But these people, because they can't feel just average and mediocre, they have to pick an extreme and say, I'm now going to be a victim of race stuff as like a sense of entitlement of to say, I deserve something too, because I can't just be mediocre. You ever think of that?
I do think of that, and I think it's tied to the American dream. I think it's tied to what America markets.
Right.
Like you got to make something yourself. You got to be some. We look down on the middle class, on average people. In like other countries, people feel okay with having a job. Everyone here feels like they have to be a rapper, a celebrity, or something. It's just like those lives aren't great, but it's marketed like you have to be famous.
Even extremely rich and wealthy and famous people, most of their day is average.
Yes.
So no matter which way you try to slice it, whether you're a victim, you want to play the victim in the race card, and I'm victimized by everything, and you're on TV for a minute being like, I'm a victim, most of your day, other than the little part you're on TV, you're average. Same thing as fucking Drake. Most of his day, besides when he posts or does the concert at MSG, leading up to that, it's pretty average. He just wakes up in a hotel or his house, has breakfast like everybody else, brushes his teeth, does some other bullshit, and then for 2 hours in the day, whatever, he does a big concert. But most of Drake's time is just average. So everything, even if you get to the pinnacle, LeBron James right now, he has a playoff game tonight, and he has practice before it, but the rest of it is just average bullshit, sitting around thinking of shit to do until he's got time for the practice of the game. Yeah, so we're all average.
There's no question LeBron James wakes up, right? He jerks off like a regular, like
100%.
He'll be like, let me just rub one out.
Yeah, looks at some Instagram models, probably DMs them under some fucking fake account.
Yeah, and then he goes downstairs, he has breakfast or whatever, and then he farts. I mean, LeBron James just farts, he takes a nap, he talks to his kids. Yeah. You know?
So what you want, what people who look at, I want to be successful, I want to be celebrity, I want to be this, what you really want is everybody's average. You can't escape at being average, and you can't escape suffering. So I think as human beings, more focused on how do I deal with being average and accept it, and how do I accept suffering? Because from fucking Jeff Bezos being the richest man in the world to the homeless guy who eats his own shit, they're both suffering. It's just different forms of suffering happen for different reasons. But you can't escape either one of them. And there's even Bezos. He's got all the money in the world, but many parts of his day are just very average. So it's just like, I don't know what people want, this illusion. That's why I'm kind of happy the Kardashian show, even though I know it's already ripple effects and all that, and it's not like it just goes away, but I'm kind of happy it's had its time and now it's moving on, because it's a little bit like celebrating these extremes of you got to have this and the big ass and the big tits and this and that. It's really like it fucks with our psyche so much, because the truth is we're all mostly average and we're all going to suffer, and you can't escape either one of those. And the people that do, I think they go to an extreme. Either you become Donald Trump or you become fucking Sean King, and either way, either I'm going to be noticed because I'm a victim, or I'm going to be noticed because I want to be president of the United States. But it's all just trying to escape the fact that you're fucking average and you're going to suffer. It all sounds familiar. So you would think, like, because when, you know, Sean King, everybody of course knows he's white, even though he keeps saying he's black. It's like we all know, and the truth will come out eventually. Just like Rachel Dolezal, who that was like the big news, and like, how could somebody do that? How could someone pretend that they were black when they were really white? And then you see this has been happening throughout history. So we found a case all the way from the late 1800s where he's doing it, and you would have to think it's been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years before that.
And it's probably a lot of people who've done it who we've never heard of. He got away with it his whole life.
Right.
So he didn't do this until this was like the last 13 years of his life. Of course, he didn't predict it to be the last 13. But in those 13 years, he lived a double life as James Todd.
Right.
A man named Clarence King.
Do we think James Todd is a good black name? Is it a cute black name or a Brute's black name?
I think it's a good one. I mean, I was saying, if you're going to go hard, you go, like Donnell Rawlings always told me, go hard or go home. He go hard or go home. I think he should have went blacker and called himself Donnell Rawlings.
Donnell Rawlings, yeah. if I was thinking of this, if I had to do a black name, I would probably go with a classic one, all New York Jets player. I would go with DeBrickshaw Distefano. That's what I would say. I'm DeBrickshaw Distefano.
Just to get back to Sean King for a second, no matter which way you slice it, even if he had some really light-skinned black, it's a real improbable story that his mom told him at 9 years old. Because the official story is his mom at 9 years old, Sean King, we're talking about the present-day Sean King, the activist.
Can't they do his Ancestry.com now and see where his roots came from?
They totally could.
But he won't do it. Of course he won't.
No, he was offered by some black conservative. I think Larry Elder offered him $250,000 to the charity of your choice if you did
and
he
says
DNA test.
Yeah, because he fucking knows. He knows that it's going to come back UK, baby.
But his story is that his mom had an affair behind his dad's back.
Sure.
And he was this kid of that, and his mom told him at 9 years old.
You're right.
That's your real dad.
And is his mother conveniently dead right now?
No, his mom's still alive.
What does his mom say about that?
I don't know, but I don't know if she's alive. I know
I
his
need a
brother
zucchini
died.
slice.
Yeah, his brother died, but tragically, rest in peace, his brother died of like leukemia or some cancer.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But I just think
it's probably hard because he was dealing with a lot of fucking stress trying to keep his brother's dirty little secret. So I think you killed your brother, Sean King, you piece of shit.
Do you think a mom would tell a 9-year-old kid, by the way,
no,
this isn't your real dad. Your real dad is some dude I banged behind his back.
No fucking chance.
This looks like my friend Mark Herstein, who I grew up with, who was a French-Jewish kid.
No, look, he looks like he could be Puerto Rican. For sure, he looks like he'd be Puerto Rican.
That's mostly the haircut and the stash.
It's mostly the haircut.
I used to have a stash like that, too, when I was trying to look Puerto Rican.
Yeah, so
black.
So that's it. So
when I grew up, it was very cool. Hip-hop culture was very cool.
So Clarence King, Sean King, it's interesting that both their last names are King. I really genuinely, my heart, believe Sean King knew about Clarence's King story and got inspired by it. And even though you say it's birth certificate, I just don't believe anything comes out of this fucking kid's mouth. So I think Sean King co-opted Clarence King's story and is just the new king. So that's just what it is. And I believe much like Clarence King told his wife, his black wife, you know, who she knew him as James Todd, on his actual deathbed in 1901 while he was dying of tuberculosis. He said, by the way, I'm not black. I'm a white guy. I'm white. And I've left you a fortune. I think Sean King on his deathbed will tell whoever his wife is at the time that, hey, by the way, I've been white this whole time.
We really hope you enjoyed that episode, whatever it was about. This is just a stock thing that we're taping onto every episode. So go, make sure you rate, review us, subscribe, turn on your notifications, get jiggy with it.
And go to patreon.com/Bay Ridge Boys where things get really wild.